If you didn't know, season 4 of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch on the History Channel has just gone live and just premiered. That means there's 3 other seasons already behind us. And if you haven't caught up yet, there is a lot of different theories about what could be going on at one of the most paranormal and strange UFO hotspots in the United States history. We're going to be talking about my top 5 theories of what is most likely happening at Skinwalker Ranch right now.
You ready?
There is a connection between the paranormal, UFOs, and the myths of ancient history. The clues are scattered across the landscape from a forbidden past, maybe even in your own backyard. There is a connection between the true nature of our reality, consciousness, and the unexplained. I'm Carl the Crusher. Let's explore the unknown. Before we get into my top 5 most plausible things that could be going on that explain the paranormal phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch, according to me, my independent research, I want to make sure and shout out the Skinwalker Ranch crew. I'm actually officially partnered with these guys and as an affiliate to their Insiders website group. And I'm going to put the link down in the description below. These guys are doing some awesome work where they're making it available for you if you go subscribe to their website, that you can access their live stream cameras and actually look around Skinwalker Ranch as things are happening through the live stream cameras. Plus, they do a lot of private interviews, guest interviews, and podcasts, plus special one-on-one events where you get to interact with the crew from Skinwalker Ranch and the owner, Brandon Fugel. It's a really awesome project that they have going on, and I'm excited to be a part of it. In fact, Caleb and some of those guys are going to be coming to work with me independently, where we're going to be filming and doing research at Mount Wilson Ranch and other locations as part of this extended collaborative effort that we're doing, trying to research and understand what the phenomena is at Skinwalker Ranch, and beyond that, how it connects to other locations as well. So make sure and check all the links down in the description below, and also take a look at my Etsy store and some of the other places where you can become a part of the Crusher crew on my Patreon page, and other ways that you can support me and my friends. Another thing that I want to clarify really quick is that a lot of times people use these images and try to depict and say that these are skinwalkers, that they are actual depictions and photographs of Navajo shaman being skinwalkers. And this is actually incorrect. These are the Yebiche. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that name right, but the Yebiche are actually people, shaman in the Navajo custom, that dress up as elements of nature and their deities and their creators and gods. And these are supposed to be positive depictions of some of their spiritual connections. These actually are not photographs of skinwalkers. So that's one of those cultural things that I wanted to clarify that gets mistaken a lot before we jump into my top 5. But now it's time to start off with number 1. We have to start off right off the bat with the name of the show and where the legend of the curse of the Skinwalker comes from. Now, I've already done an entire video about how the name Skinwalker may have come about in connection with Brigham Young and the Mormon settlers moving into the Salt Lake Valley, and connection with Chief Wakara, who is also called Chief Walker. And there was a lot of shady stuff that was going on. If you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend that you go watch that. And then following that, you also need to go watch my interview with Roger and Colleen of the Re-Indigenizing Minds Project, where we did a full 2-hour interview. And in one of those segments, we talked about Skinwalker Ranch, which is what I think, if there is one theory that stands out on the first of my list that's the most plausible, and it fits with my friend Chris Bartell's theory as well, is that a lot of the paranormal phenomena is connected with the Native American connection and the indigenous history of the land in that area. The Uintah Basin is home to so many ancient cultures that the dates keep pushing back farther and farther and farther. The petroglyphs that you most commonly see in the area, a lot of them are from the Fremont people and then older cultures that go clear back into the Pueblo, the Paiute, the Desert Archaic period, and then beyond that into like prehistory, prehistoric and native indigenous people that were living among woolly mammoth and all kinds of animals and creatures that is almost like a land before time that is really fascinating when you start to look into it. Now, this kind of blends in with one of the other theories that we're going to talk about a little bit later that has to do with quantum entanglement and issues with the magnetoelectric field or the electromagnetic field of the Earth. But imagine if there is an ancient indigenous location that has been inhabited as a ritual site in connection with all of the other factors that we're going to talk about tonight, from the geology, from maybe some sort of a X point or quantum entangle point in the electromagnetic field. But imagine if ancient indigenous cultures who were following the migration of animals, following the stars in the sky and their own intuition, very deep connection with the earth, would have gravitated and found a lot of these locations that were sort of amplified and created these effects that were powerful in their shamanistic beliefs or their religious customs. And what we find at Skinwalker Ranch is actually a lot of evidence of that. On the upper mesa at Skinwalker Ranch, above the homesteads, you have what looks to be like a polygonal trade floor. This is an ancient indigenous trading floor that could date back thousands of years, that aligns and connects through this interesting mapping system that my friends Roger and Colleen are developing. They're actually putting out a whole workshop and a set of books and things about this, about how these ancient stone circles and trade floors actually connect from one location to another in a whole network that actually spans the globe. And at Skinwalker Ranch, when you look on the upper mesa, not only do you have this polygonal trade floor on the upper mesa, but you have an ancient indigenous form of a Stonehenge. There's these big stone monolithic boulders, and I believe that the one that is supposed to be sitting in the center has been rolled out of place, or somehow the seal of this portal or a ritual prayer circle has somehow been tilted out of place, maybe intentionally by moving that center boulder. It makes me wonder if it was put back in place. But if you remember in the earlier seasons, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, that they brought on the rabbi, and they had Caleb Bench and my other friends actually gather stones and bring them and make a stone circle on the ground. And when they did this, it created sort of a gravity inversion, a temperature inversion over the homestead, where it became almost like a cold vortex that Travis Taylor described, almost like it was some kind of a portal or something like that. And it was almost around this time when Caleb and Travis also saw this strange rectangular geometric glowing shape that appeared back at like Homestead 1 that moved across the ditch bank that they saw and ran up there, and then it seemed to disappear. So a lot of interesting things going on there in connection with that. And I've also heard and seen evidence that up around that primitive stone circle is where Caleb and other people have been standing or investigating when they have witnessed what they have described as this big lensing effect, or this like a dome, a lens distortion that appears in the sky, almost like there's a warp in the sky where you see the clouds or the stars behind it sort of bend, like there's a kind of a cloaking device or something in the air. And they've even captured some of this evidence with their drone data and other data that they're running with Eric inside the command center at Skinwalker Ranch. Now, I think that this is all connected with the Native American indigenous customs and beliefs that have to do with these primitive stone circles. I don't even like to call them primitive. They're ancient relic, advanced stone circles that are way more connected to the electromagnetic field or magnetoelectric field of the earth, that may account for doing meditations and consciousness contact that sort of interfaces with some of these megalithic or monolithic features that are designed to connect with the heavens and commune with the gods or with the star people, or even to time travel, or even communicate with ancestors from the past, or even deceased relatives who are existing right alongside us in like a spirit world. So all of those things that are occurring at Skinwalker Ranch, from UFOs appearing in the sky to paranormal things seemingly like shadow figures and orbs of light moving around on the ground like the place is haunted like a poltergeist. This whole custom and oral tradition of the Skinwalker may be more related to the indigenous relic customs and the shamanic customs of the indigenous people building these relic stone circles, and for thousands of years doing ceremonies and religious sort of ceremonies and rituals around these stone circles and at Skinwalker Ranch that has affected things. So imagine now if you go into these places like Chris Bartell and you hike along the rocks and you're meditating and you kind of quantum entangle your consciousness with these locations, the next thing you know, it's almost like you're stepping through time or interfacing with part of the past that might still exist there parallel alongside of us. And that brings us to our next plausible theory of what could be going on at Skinwalker Ranch. One of the major parts of the research that I've been doing with my friends James Keenan, Chris Bartell, Caleb Bench, Thomas Winterton, and the whole crew of guys up there, and Eric Bard, is that we've actually done other expeditions and trips to explore the geology and the strange energetic effects of the unique geology of the Uintah Basin around Skinwalker Ranch. That has taken us up to the tops of the mountains in the Uintah Basin, looking for cave entrances and places where there are actually giant caves that go into the earth, where the snow melt in the springtime actually melts and goes down into the mountain, into these giant tunnel systems that run completely underground. And the question is, can this flowing water and aquifer system create sort of a natural geological effect on the environment, to where when you're at the bottom of that down at Skinwalker Ranch, it's almost like being at the bottom pole of a battery. At the top of the mountain, you might have the positive end, and at the bottom, you might have the negative end, where all of the minerals and the geology might be crystallizing and forming some kind of a piezoelectric effect down at the bottom of the basin where Skinwalker Ranch is. You have this aquifer system running underground and all the way from the top of the mountain that might have a natural vibration or a tectonic effect in the earth that may create some sort of paranormal effect or supernatural phenomena to occur. Whether that opens up paranormal dimensions of reality, or it creates a sort of radiation that interfaces with human consciousness and awareness that makes us perceive things that normally you wouldn't be able to. It's a fascinating question that my friends, especially James Keenan, have been working on heavily to try and sort out. We've been using everything from radiation equipment to metal detectors to drone technology to actually crawling through the tunnels themselves and going underground and using laser pointers and all types of sensitive equipment to see if we can pick up a pattern. And there has been interesting ones, certain ones on the Schumann resonance in the theta wave frequency at 7, 14, and 21 that directly do affect human consciousness. And we're starting to explore that not only in and around Skinwalker Ranch, but also at Mount Wilson Ranch, the predecessor to Skinwalker Ranch as well. But the geology is something that you have to take into account and might also connect back with our theory number one, which is why the indigenous people may have chosen that location, because reality is sort of thin or even amplified to have these sort of supernatural phenomena occur, which would have made these places sacred and special to the Native American people in that time. Theory number three is probably one of my favorites and one of the most interesting because it's far out there. And it's the idea that the Bigelow team and the psychic spies from Stanford that were collaborating with Bigelow and his crew, that they had actually discovered particular points on the earth, especially in America, where there was alien or extraterrestrial structures or maybe interdimensional alien bases hidden underground and possibly UFOs. There is a theory out there that underneath the mesa at Skinwalker Ranch is some kind of a sport-sized UFO, or like a flying saucer craft that in a long ago ancient time somehow embedded itself in the mountain. Now you could speculate that how did it get there? Did it put itself there on purpose? Did it somehow get time traveled back in time from the future and then somehow accidentally get embedded there? Or are these like intentionally planted structures or UFO type craft that are embedded into the earth because of the geology and because of the effect that it would have on the indigenous people there, that they could actually manipulate or shape cultures over time, maybe even start religions or affect perceptions of humanity? Imagine if there was a UFO buried under Skinwalker Ranch that could pulse out a signal that affected mankind in a certain way, or sent reports or signals back to some kind of mothership. That would be really fascinating and would also fit in with some of the other research that I've seen that connects phenomena and signals transmitting from Skinwalker Ranch to strange things that might be going on with constellations in the sky. Now, you have to wonder, if there is a craft buried there, does the thing turn on? Is it still active? Is it inhabited? And is it actually a physical craft in our physical dimension of reality? Or is this just a point where, because of the geology and some of the thinness or amplification of the electromagnetic field there, it creates like a wormhole or a portal for these craft to come and go? And so you have to wonder if this is a transient phenomena. Is there a structure or a craft at Skinwalker Ranch underneath the mesa, or buried underneath the triangle possibly, where you're not supposed to dig, that is teleporting or moving through quantum space-time or quantum dimensions of reality? And that's one of the places that it likes to sit and park for some reason or another. And the effects of coming close to that or poking around it is all of the paranormal phenomena that occurs. So when you get there, it's like you get haunted by skinwalkers or shadow figures, or you see a UFO as some kind of a defense mechanism, or maybe the craft actually comes and goes and the structure maybe is transient and moves around with the phenomena. It's an interesting theory, and one of my favorites, because it really makes you wonder what could be buried underground, and is it moving to other places? And I have heard rumors of this also at Mount Wilson Ranch, which is a strange connection. That brings us to number 4 on our list of theories that I think are the most plausible. And we've been talking about this a little bit, but let's dig into it a little bit more. The quantum entanglement theory. Now, you have to think in broad spectrums of the entire phenomena altogether. And imagine that we can only see and realize only a thin slice of the visible spectrum of reality. We can only hear so much, we can only see so much, and our perceptions of reality are this thin slice. And then you fall off into the infrared or the ultraviolet, and then these quantum realms, or these deeper realms that are above or below us, that are beyond our ability to even fathom, almost like we're flatlanders trying to understand these multi-dimensional phenomena. So it's almost like imagining that there's an augmented reality or a holographic alternate reality that's parallel alongside of us, almost in the same way that, like on a hard drive, you can have multiple video games or movies saved on there, but through linear time, you can only perceive reality from a singular timeline perspective, where the disk is actually being read and the information comes from. So what if there is a quantum reality with multiple levels of possibilities all happening at once, and then within that there is distortions? So imagine that because of the geology, or because there's a buried craft, or because of certain phenomena to do with quantum entanglement that we don't quite understand, there are locations on Earth that have distortions or X points or hot spots, where you have the ley lines or the energetic field, the electromagnetic or magnetoelectric field of the Earth that is flowing all around us, is connected through every living thing and all non-living things, and gives us the physical reality and all of its properties that we experience from in day-to-day life. But there may be spots where maybe a meteorite has hit, or the geology is unique, or there is unique phenomena that creates these twists or an X point that opens up like a wormhole or a portal that may have intentionally been put there or is non-intentional, and a natural phenomena that produces things like Skinwalker Ranch type phenomena. So that when you go to these areas, suddenly reality is very thin and you get glimpses of these strange archaic creatures from the past, or UFOs coming in from the future, or aliens that seem to be from another dimension or parallel reality that don't quite seem to fit. And it all seems like maybe there is some sort of a quantum entanglement time travel phenomena going on that we can't quite understand. And places like Skinwalker Ranch are a host of these paranormal phenomena. And so therefore they have been studied as a key point of interest that these professionals and the psychic spies from Stanford and everyone have located and keyed on. And now they are a specific focal point for all of the UFOs and paranormal phenomena that's still being studied to this day. This is a big reason why you see the team there firing rockets into the air and using radiation sensors and electromagnetic equipment to try and test to see any of those changes. And when they talk about radiation, that's a big word. There's a lot of different types of radiation that come all the way into the visible spectrum that allow you to see what you're seeing in the room right now. But understanding if there's a related pattern to the supernatural occurrences and when they pop up is something that there is a lot of different teams doing that in and around Skinwalker Ranch, on the TV show and even off the TV show, trying to figure out exactly what is going on. And that's why that is one of my most plausible theories, is that there is just a distortion or a twist or an amplification in the electromagnetic fields, or an X point in the ley lines of the Earth. And that's where you find all these Stonehenge, the pyramids, and all these amazing archaic relic technologies and pyramids and mounds built all over the world, including Skinwalker Ranch. Theory number 5 is the last one, but probably one of my favorites because I feel like it relates most to my personal experiences with the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch and with my research in and around it. And that is that there is a quantum entanglement phenomena, time travel phenomena going on that exposes parallel dimensions of reality, including the past and the future, that everything is actually here and happening all at once. That I believe that there is an overlay of everything that we consider to be the past and what we think is going to be the undetermined future is really sort of in a quantum flux state of possibilities. And as we go through all of those possibilities, the parallel outcomes that are right alongside of us could also be existing there, almost like an echo or a phantom or a quantum ripple in reality of the possible outcomes that would have or could have been right alongside of us. And I think that explains a lot of the strange phenomena going on, and why I think that if there is advanced entities out there, they already know this. They understand if there is extraterrestrials, or if it's us in the far distant future, or maybe artificial intelligence. They understand these principles of quantum entanglement, quantum time travel, and would have gone back through this sense of the past and the future into almost a solid state now, to where all we experience in our linear point of view is like the Mandela effect, or paranormal supernatural phenomena, or UFO appearances of extraterrestrials that are difficult for us to explain. But from their perspective, they're at this quantum time travel perspective where everything is sort of before them all at once with unlimited possibilities and outcomes. And so it's sort of like this big super simulation. So it's a very interesting theory to think that Skinwalker Ranch might be one of the places that is like a focal point or a hot point throughout history, to where from the 1960s, there was like almost 800 sightings of UFOs, plus the ancient indigenous cultures there that have reports of all the supernatural encounters with ant people and the star people. And then all of the research from Bigelow's team up to Brandon Fugel's team to now, and some of the stuff that I'm doing with their crew around the phenomena, seems to paint this picture that there's a misunderstanding that we have about how reality works and time works, and especially how that affects us with human consciousness and awareness. So those are my top 5 plausible theories. I could go on. There's several others as well. If we want to dig more into it, please let me know if you want to know my other top 5, and we'll make it a solid 10 in maybe a next episode. But also make sure and check out the links in the description box down below so that you can go support the Skinwalker Ranch crew, all my friends. Check out my Patreon and my Etsy, and also come and visit me here in southern Utah to go on tours with me, visit the Water Canyon Winery, and come to Mount Wilson Ranch and bring your own team, and we'll do the investigations in one of the predecessors to Skinwalker Ranch firsthand. You can come yourself and do it right there, right alongside me and my friends with a special request. So thanks, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one.